What is up, team? Welcome back to the Man That Can podcast. My name's Lachlan, Stuart, and if you're fired up to continue building a better life, learning from some inspiring men, then this week's episode is going to be for you. Mac Hereford joins me on the show, and we talk about his time at Alabama and how it shaped him into the man he is today. Working under Coach Nick Saban when he was playing football for Alabama taught him so many important life lessons around time management, structure, and showing up not only for yourself, but for a team. Now, one of the biggest takeaways that I got from this chat was how Mac managed to leverage Alabama. And for me, that was a huge takeaway because as we grow and evolve and become the best version of ourselves, we can find better opportunities to create the outcomes that we want. And it's really important to acknowledge the work that we did in order to put ourselves there so that we can then create leverage. And it's something that I battled with for a long time, but having this conversation with Mac helped me have a massive breakthrough. So I really enjoyed the conversation and the takes that Mac has around mental health, self-care, and also building great communication skills to develop lifelong friendships for a fulfilling life. So this episode is going to drop you with so much knowledge. As always, before we dive in, if you do get value from it, please take a moment to leave a rating and review and share it on your social media platform and tag me so that I can see what your thoughts are on these episodes. As always, do something today to be better for tomorrow. Let's get into this episode with Mac Hereford. Mac, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Mate, I am pumped to have you on. I've came across you the way that I guess I've met a lot of people here in the States is people that I've followed for years or people that I've met since being in Nashville. Whenever they tag people in posts, I'm like, they're probably a buddy of his. Maybe I can be buddies with them. And it's kind of weird when you say that out loud, but then I started following your stuff. You played football, which is gridiron, or we call it gridiron NFL. Is that that's what you'd call it?
Yeah, I mean,
footy?
Well, we just call it football.
Yeah, football.
Yeah, like college football, NFL football, you know.
Yeah, all our audience, when we say footy, there's like rugby league, rugby union, soccer. There's so many different ones. Anyway, played football. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of who Mac is? It's a big question. You're sitting there going, fuck, man.
I know. I'm like, shit, man. This is a loaded question. But I'll try my best. Dang, it's I get that question a lot. I'm like, how do I do this in the quickest way possible, but also giving enough information, but not going into every single little avenue of everything because that would take a long time. But essentially, I was born and raised Birmingham, Alabama, which is an awesome place. Love Alabama. Grew up, I was one of 5 siblings and have two amazing parents. And then I always wanted to play football for Alabama. So that was like my dream growing up. You know, I have books, like little like children's books that when you're in like first grade, you write like, who do you want to be when you grow up or different things. And in really crappy handwriting, it says, I want to be Alabama football player, not a Alabama football player. It's literally like, I want to be
Alabama
football player.
I am the guy.
Yeah. So I always thought that was funny because a lot of people, you know, at that age, you want to be an astronaut, you want to be a police officer, you want to be an actor, like different things. Or an NFL player. Mine was literally just, I want to be an Alabama football player. And I have that book still to this day, which is really cool. I think it was when I was 5 years old that I wrote that in a book. That was like my dream, what I wanted to be. All that to say, it leads up to a lot of, you know, the later day. So that was my dream when I was younger. Grew up in Alabama. You know, played rec league football. Played honestly every sport. My parents really want us to get involved in all the different sports. And we're never those like really crazy like helicopter type parents. You know, parents that are, you know, looking at your stats, trying to make you go to the best coaches. It was if you wanted it, you're going to get it. You know, you're going to go out there and get it, which I always loved. Fast forward, I had an opportunity. I was in Alabama, had an opportunity around 9th grade to go to a boarding school. My oldest brother played a lot of competitive tennis. We all played competitive tennis around the United States, or I'd say predominantly the South. But USTA, which is like you grow up playing, if you play competitive tennis, what you do here in the United States. And so we all grew up doing that. My oldest brother ended up wanting to go to this boarding school. It was crazy because, like, look, we're in Alabama, you know, to the thought of wanting to go off somewhere. And my oldest brother, I thought was a big mama's boy, is like, what the heck has this got into my oldest brother?
He's leaving us.
He's leaving us. And so he decided to go to the school. That was that was a hard thing for me at a young age. I think I can't remember what grade I was in, but my oldest brother and I, all my siblings and I are very close, but my oldest brother and I had a unique connection because the ones in between us are twins. And so they would always gain up on me when I was younger, and I would call out to my oldest brother and he would come protect me. We grew up in bunk beds. Like when we were younger, he was on the top bunk.
Like
I was on the
Step
bottom
Brothers,
bunk.
where it's like, can we make bunk beds?
Yeah. So it was, and we would listen to that Pokemon, You Got to Catch 'Em All song. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That's like ingrained in my brain.
Pokemon, man.
So all that to say, he went. Pretty crazy thought, pretty crazy thing that happened because, again, like it was just something I would have never thought about. We had one of the twins, one of my brothers who were twins, decided to end up going as well. And then it came time where like you can get obviously a certain amount of financial aid and different things once you have a certain number of kids going to this place because it's expensive. It's a boarding school. And I never would have thought I would ever go to a boarding school. Still to this day, I'm like, damn, I really did that. But had an opportunity. I got into the school and to go to this boarding school in Virginia called Woodbury Forest. And I remember that being another kind of pivotal time in my life where I sat down and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, I was playing sports at the high school I was going to in Alabama, loving it. But also, you know, I didn't know if I would play at Alabama or get college opportunities playing at that school. And now I'm presented with this opportunity to go somewhere that, heck, I've only been a couple of times because my brothers are there, and it seems so foreign to me in Virginia. And I'm a huge mama's boy, and I love home. I loved home. Like, you know, I just enjoyed my friends. I enjoyed what I had going on there. But this opportunity came up, and I'm like, all right, what do I do? You know, how do I decide this?
Yep.
And again, it was really like one of those things where you're looking at it and you're like, there's no way I'm going to this boarding school, but I'm at least going to present the idea that I might. Long story short, ended up writing down a list that was like, you know, different things like with faith, with like pros and cons, faith, you know, sports, different things that I wanted to achieve in life. And one side had a lot more challenges, but was, you know, there's a lot more advantages on this side, and growth, room to grow. And then on this side, it was, you know, a lot of comfortability, but things I enjoyed and loved, and like being around family and stuff like that. And I ended up to the side that was a lot of the challenges and more room for growth was the boarding school option. And so late deadline goes past, and then it gets to a point where, you know, now I have to decide. Like, this is the last day. I remember walking downstairs, and I prayed about it a lot, and I guess it was just God speaking to me, but I just said, I'm going to be a tiger, which was their school mascot.
Yeah.
And then the words came out of my mouth, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, inside my head, I'm like, oh, God. Like, what have I just done? But I ran with it. Ended up, and I remember my first day at boarding school, because you have to leave your parents out, like looking up at the ceiling and my bunk bed, and I'm like, what the hell have I done? You know, fast forward, ends up being some of the best years of my life. It grew a ton, developed and had some of the best friendships and relationships, met people from all over the world, and really truly became like an independent man. You know, I think in my household, my parents did an unbelievable job at raising and developing me, but it was kind of an opportunity at a young age to fully get, you know, you're independent. You're not under your parents' wing. You know, you're out of the nest at an early age, and you're having to learn, you're having to grow, face and conquer things on your own. So really appreciative for the, you know, life that boarding school helped me make. And then after that, got an opportunity to be a preferred walk-on at the University of Alabama. And
well, can you explain what a preferred walk-on is? Because I've seen like scholarships, walk-ons, preferred walk-ons. That just doesn't exist back home. So there's probably a lot of blokes there going, what is that?
Yeah. So, and I'll try to explain it in the way the Aussie audience can understand it as well. But essentially, you have college and university, and there is different divisions. You have Division I FCS, Division II, Division III, whatever. And Division II, Division I FCS, and Division I can all offer scholarships. And so I was talking to some Division I FCS schools, other, you know, smaller D1 schools. But Alabama reached out, and they're like, hey, we have an opportunity. We don't have any scholarships available, but we have what's called a preferred walk-on opportunity. So what that is in Alabama, it changes school to school, I think. I don't think there's one size model for all preferred walk-ons. But the way it works at Alabama is you get a preferred walk-on opportunity, you're coming in, you're not really having to try out. So a lot of guys have to try out for the team. You're coming in, you're with the team in summer workouts, summer training, and you're already on the team coming in. You're treated as almost the same as a scholarship player in a lot of ways. You are meeting with like the academic advisors. You're going to the same meetings they are pre-camp, you know, pre-workout. Yep. So it's literally the same thing, but you're not getting paid scholarship money. So you're guaranteed an opportunity on the team, and you just.
And so so from a scholarship standpoint, do they pay your way through college, whereas a preferred walk-on, you have to fund it yourself? Like pay?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Exactly. So and the thing is, luckily for me, I was in state
Yep.
technically, because that's where my residence is Alabama. So I get the in-state, scholar or whatever. It costs less to go in-state.
Gotcha.
But also had some academic scholarships. So you can get guys for walk-on. For me, like if I had to pay the full amount, you may have more of a question. But look, here's my dream presented in front of me to play at the University of Alabama. I had academic scholarship, was in-state. So it was a lot cheaper for me than it was for most guys. So I ended up taking that opportunity, and that's what that was, and played there for 4 years, 4 of the best years of my life. Incredible memories, experiences. Obviously, learning under Coach Nick Saban was, amazing. Graduate from the University of Alabama, ended up getting my master's in marketing at Vanderbilt, was going to play my 5th year of football there, ended up training with those guys. It was the COVID season, had lost 2 grandparents, one shortly after the other. And it was just mentally, it was a challenge. You're in a new environment. I'm living by myself up here at Vanderbilt. But I wanted it for the opportunity to play, get on the field more. And just thought, I can't say it mentally. It was so tough because it didn't feel like real football. And I'm a person who would never tell anyone, like during that time, I was like, anyone who opts out, they're weak. They're weak. That's the mindset. But then it came to the point where I've lost 2 grandparents. I've suffered a little bit of injury, had a hamstring thing going on, and other stuff. And it was just like, I was beaten down. I was tired, so much anxiety. I needed to get back, obviously, for family. And if you go back, you have to quarantine for a certain period of time. And I was rehabbing injury. So it's like, all right. If I go home to see my family, which I was very, very close to my grandparents, extremely close. If I go back to see my family, I'm giving up, a lot of weeks. And at that point, okay, then I come back and no program. I talked to Coach Derek Mason, who was the coach at the time, awesome guy, and really took a time to meet with me and work through this decision when he was in the midst of a COVID season trying to lead a football team. So I have a lot of respect for him too, Derek Mason at Vanderbilt. But met with me a couple times, and it was like, no coach would say, hey, you're going to play when you get back. You know what I'm saying? You can't promise that. You can't promise that someone's going to play because I miss 5 weeks of the season, 4 weeks, however many weeks it is. It's not fair to those other guys who've been there. And all in all, decided to go back home, but finished my master's in marketing. And after that, had just jumped into the real world to where, again, I could go on and on about the details throughout the story, but to essentially where I am now. And that's, I do a little bit. I like to say I have 2 buckets. I have a content side of things that's more of the, doing personal brand deals, doing activations with companies or brands where I'm posting stuff or making videos. And then there's the other side of it, which is I like to call, I'll put it under the consulting umbrella or entrepreneurship umbrella, where I'm doing a variety of different things. I'm forming strategic relationships. I am helping on brand building, whether it's for personal for people or for brands and businesses, and helping. I manage some things like some activations, connect people. The list it's pretty crazy and hard to understand. Everyone always asks me like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, dude, if I could tell you what I do in a simplified way, I would love to do it. So I end up really just telling people when they ask me what I do, I'm like, consultant and like content creator. Easy. But that's just, it goes way beyond that. So,
but I find it fascinating, and I think it's so cool. I always get very intrigued when I see people from a sporting background go into like a more creative side of things, because for myself, I'm so, I guess, rational and logical, and my wife's, everyone that I surround myself with is creative. They don't run on a time schedule, and I love it because it's helped me sort of let go of a lot of control in my life. And there's a guy here, Lindsay Rhymes, who's written a heap of songs with Nate Smith and all of that, and he used to play professional rugby back in home, and now he's got, I think 3 or 4 Billboard #1s. And so I spend a bit of time with him trying to work out how he did that transition, because he was much like me. He's like, bro, you just got to let it go, man. I'm like, it's fucking tough. So when I meet people like yourself who've done that well, how was it going from the structure of football, especially at Alabama and then Vanderbilt, to then now running your own show, having more of a creative flow with things?
Yeah, so it's a interesting point you bring up, because again, most people, you're in the structure, and we're talking about 4 years under Coach Nick Saban. We're not talking, you're not creative to that point. Yeah. You're sticking to what he's telling you to do. Everything is methodical in a science. I can remember practices, literally, it'll be 12 to 14-minute periods, which a period is just like, a certain time in practice. So it may be period 1 is 7 minutes, and that could be walkthrough. Period 2 is routes on air, which is like we're running routes and just catching footballs from the QBs. That could be 3 minutes, whatever, however many the time is. Everyone was like this on the dot. Like the craziest thing was if we were to, if a guy were to have a mix-up or something when we're doing what's called team, which is you have the first team offense versus the first team defense, and they're playing against each other, and there's a mix-up, and they have to redo a play. Saban accounted for it to the point where you're still going to finish on the exact dot of time that he has. It was like magic. It was magician type shit. So all that to explain, I went from that insane structure, that like life of structure, and I really thrived in it. I thrived in that environment because I would do football. I'd wake up in the morning. Football was my main purpose, was the main thing I was doing and putting all my time and energy into. And then following practice, I had time to be a little bit creative, make some connections, go out, do community service, whatever it may be. And to where now it's a challenge, I would say, because I've grown to be more and more creative throughout my life. I think I had like kind of a seed planted in my head, midway through college around sophomore, junior year, where it was like, okay, this entrepreneurship type, seed was planted. And I started to become creative to where now I feel like I'm really creative is like my thing. Like I would consider myself a creative, which is interesting because again, I was in this structure. So long story short, I know I made that a lot longer than it need to be.
No, it was interesting.
It's been a challenge. I would say that it's really difficult because I think there's a side of me that needs structure still. I think that deep down, I thrive with a little bit of structure and doing things at certain times, in which the way I've kind of dealt with it is I've applied a little bit of structure with maintaining my creativity. What I mean by that is I have certain times. What's the most important things I need to do? Like I need to pray. I need to, work out, exercise. Like I need to spend time with others, check in with people. Like those are some of the most important things. So what I do is I structure those things out. All right, I'm going to work out these days every single week. I'm going to work out at these days every single week. And I'm going to make sure to call people, at least once a day or check in with somebody. Make sure to get some extra exercise, whether it's walking outside, enjoying a little bit of nature. Then like I structure everything around that. So I have the main things that I think are really healthy for my mental, for my body. I prioritize those and put structure with those things because consistently do them, then I'm going to consistently be happier. And then the creative just comes everywhere in between. It's weird. The life of creative is crazy because back in the day, it was like I just wanted to do 24/7. I want to do stuff all the time, but also it's some days I feel like, dang, like the light bulb is spinning. I'm ready to make like $1 billion business idea. The next day, I'm sitting at my house and I'm like, well, shit, what do I do now? So it's a hectic lifestyle and it's been very challenging. And I would say I definitely don't have it figured out yet. I'm still working on it, but I think it's definitely an interesting thing. I don't really know.
Do you feel that you've produced better results? And if we look at results on outcome based on moving you towards closer to where you want to be, do you feel the place you're in right now is working well for you? Or do you feel if you maybe did develop, sort of have that more structure like you did when you're at football, you would be, I guess, moving quicker? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the way I'm doing it now, great, but I can be a lot better. And I think being better would require me to do a better job with planning and structure. I think one of the big challenges for me is like my calendar, scheduling. And I'm a one-man team, so it's very difficult to so-and-so wants to meet this day, so-and-so wants to meet this day, when I don't really plan anything crazy in advance. I like to keep the creativity and spontaneity. Spontaneity.
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity. To things I do. I think it allows me to be creative and allows me to have, joy doing those things. But that's something I know that if I improved, and worked on, whether it's scheduling, it's being more organized. Those things are definitely things that can help me be better. So to answer your question, I'm where I need to be, but also I need to be better. And I can do that.
It's interesting because I come at it, from the complete opposite side. And as I was saying earlier, my whole family's pretty much creatives. They are all creatives. And so I get really irritated when it's like this is a meeting. You just schedule it. And they're like, yeah, but what if I'm writing a song and it's going real well? And so I understand that. I'm starting to appreciate that a lot more now. And since I've been living in America, like even when we went back to Australia last month, I went straight back to like 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. I'm on. And like, I got a lot of shit done, but I was anxious. I was chewing my nail. Like I noticed a lot of things that I'd never really noticed. And then I come back here where I don't really technically start work until 2, 3 p.m. because that's when Australia wakes up. So it's cool. I can play golf this morning, have a yarn with you, do another podcast after, hit the gym, then I'll start work. And I love that a lot more because I have more time to think and I guess explore that creative side of myself because I am an entrepreneur. I've got the podcast and the business, etc. And I love letting go of control a little bit. So probably to back your point up, I think having too much structure, it made me successful. However, I don't think I really enjoyed the success as much as I was telling myself I did. So I think there's this weird balance where you've got to try new stuff, especially when you're a one-man band. I'm back to a one-man band now. It's like you get to do what you want.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part about it. If it's not working well for you, that's on you. If it is working well, that's on you. Like, I love that.
I know. It's great. I love it. I've wanted to get, to be honest, I want to get to the point where I do have a team and I'm able to build out a team and develop that. But the biggest challenge for me is I think I get a little bit fearful. Trust is, I would say it was what it is. It's like, can I trust so-and-so to do things the way I want it to be done and it's hard because you can't really replicate. So your brain and my brain are different.
Yeah,
you know what
100%.
I'm saying? And so it's hard to replicate my brain into someone else's brain, but it takes time to train them and teach them in your way. And that's a big investment. And so it's like, dang. And then it's like, someone may be good at something, but they want more than they think they deserve. Or, I avoid I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to put up with how much should I pay someone because I feel bad. I want to pay someone how much they're worth. But at the same time, like, how do we determine that in this day and time? And like, health benefits, like I don't even know how that works to set up I have an LLC, but I'm like, I don't even know how this works to hire out people really. But I eventually do want to get to the point where I have a team because I do think it'd be helpful, but the one-man band thing is pretty great because you can live, completely in the present and it's kind of like you were on your time 100% of the time. But all that to say, I think that one of the things I would like to tell people, or I think people should hear, is that whether it's in, with business, whether it's with sports, at the end of the day, if you're doing something a certain way and it works for you, keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Keep doing it. Pursue what makes you happy and joyful. Because a lot of times I think even when I see football stuff, people will say you have to run a route this certain way or you have to get in a stance this way. Well, I watched guys like Jerry Jeudy in college who coaches always try to tell him, Jerry, you cannot be running a route like this. What is this that you're doing? And all I'm seeing on the film is Jerry Jeudy toast some defensive back and get a touchdown. And I'm like, okay, why are we telling this guy to not do something if it's being successful? Now, I'll get doing things the right way, but I think that, like, at the end of the day, if someone can be successful doing something their way, that you have to open up your eyes a little bit and be like, maybe their way is the right way for them.
Correct. It's interesting when you speak about that because there's frameworks to get all kinds of results, whether it's health, business, relationship. It's like you do this and it should move you towards this outcome. And everyone's so unique in, as you said, your brain's different to mine. So what I define as success or a great relationship or good health is completely unique, and how I go about getting there is completely unique. And I try stuff. Actually, I heard you talk about this on with your branding on a branding podcast you were doing, where it's like you saw a TikTok or something like that, and then you did it, made it your own thing, and it blew up. Like I think it was this one
finger challenge,
blew up, and I'll put that in the show notes for everyone. It's pretty wild. But you see things, and then you put your own unique spin on it, and you go, if it can deliver that outcome, and you just test stuff, and that's put you in the position you're in now, where people are like, oh, Mac thinks about things differently, and he can provide these different results. You may not win the result every time, and you're not. Do you fear failure? Actually, before I carry on there,
I would say sometimes, but not. It depends. It depends. I think on, like, do I feel failure when it comes to, I don't even know if it's really necessarily failure that I fear. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, But I guess sometimes I do. But to the extent of video creation and learning about content side of things, not really. Like I've been out where I've done a deal with someone and they're like, you know, you may have an hour time frame. You're going to be around these certain people with these certain kind of assets. You need to come up with some stuff, and I will bank completely on my raw ability. I won't go in with like a, you know, document telling me here's some ideas, which I do now, you know,
Yeah.
I do now, but I wouldn't fear it in those situations. I would go in there and just let it rip and just trust myself and trust my brain, and worked. But
And that's ballsy. That's awesome.
it is ballsy. Yeah.
That's so brilliant. So then, yeah, I guess for a lot of people, they fear failure, and you went about trying those new things to help you move the needle forward. And a lot of people won't do that. They'll see a specific, you know, they might follow someone on social media and they go, I need to do exactly what Mac's doing or exactly what Lachlan's doing, and it should get me the result, but it doesn't. They may not find it fulfilling. It may not feel integral to or authentic, which a lot of people are, especially with TikTok, right? Like they do the same crap that everyone else is doing, and you're like, that's just so disingenuous. I don't feel like that's authentic for you. And I find myself in that position because at the same time, when you're trying to grow a business and build a brand, there are things that work, right? You have to jump on trends to a degree, but how do you put your own flavor and your own spin on it? And I don't think you can get there without having the time to be creative and think about things and test things. 9 out of 10 may be crap, but it's that 1 in 10 that you're sort of looking for, that then you get the feedback to go, oh, that's really awesome. That could work.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things I tell people, if you're looking to get into the creative space and you're looking for a style of content to do, one of the ones that I've seen success in is storytelling. And people are always saying, you know, when I get in front of the camera, it comes off different. Well, I'm just thinking about this because it's hot on my mind. But one of the things I told someone the other day is, look, one of my most viral videos that I story told, because I don't do it a bunch of the time, but one of the most viral videos I story told is, okay, if you have an experience. So, for example, the one that I had was I was playing at McCabe Golf Course, local municipal.
Dude, I was playing there this morning.
Local municipal golf course, and I got paired up with a random. His name was Bob.
Do they actually do that, pair you up with randoms, or you?
I did that. You can do that. So you can go out there and you meet, you know, all these random people, and a lot of times you'll just be like, hey, like, do you mind if I tag along? Like, instead of you playing by yourself, because it would take longer, let's pair up. And so I pair up with this random guy named Bob. Ends up telling me this crazy story about his life. You know, how he owns this burger shop and he loves burgers, and you know, he's telling me about how we need a birdie bottle and all this. And I go and tell this story. And the reason it worked, and it's because it was a challenge for me to storytell. I would love to do that. I would love to get a camera and be able to tell stories consistently. But a strategy is, whenever you have a story or something happen to you, an experience, you're exhilarated, or it's fresh on your mind. And so you're going to tell it naturally the best you can. So the thing I would encourage people to do if they're looking to create a cool story piece of content, obviously you have good stories that you had happen in the past, but really let that creative seed just grow in your head. And okay, boom, you know, Lachlan goes out and an alligator tries to like bite someone's head off or something. You have that experience. Get your phone out after, like talk about it, because you're going to be wanting to just tell it, and you're going to tell it more natural than you would 45 minutes later, hour later. You're not going to tell it the same. But when it's fresh on your mind, you can't even be thinking because you're so like
excited
wrapped up in the experience.
Up,
Yes. So that's one thing I would say is really helpful for people if they're trying to do story creating content and just tell a story themselves.
And you love to learn through experiences. I remember listening, like, I don't read books.
Yeah.
I love learning through experience. And I believe for myself, I do read a lot and I love it. I learn a lot. However, everything that I do in all the work is like implement stuff, get the experiences, because it's always going to be different to the book. So for yourself, what have been some of the, I guess, the greatest things you've learned through experiences over the last couple of years?
Gosh, yeah, it's funny. I think to the people out there, I know
Everyone's like burning their bookshelves right now.
Yeah, I to be completely honest, like you said, I've read very, very few books. It's not something I'm necessarily proud of, and I just read a book the other day for the first time in years.
Well done, man.
But it's for some reason, like you mentioned, for me, like I see so much value because books are very helpful. And I've seen a lot. Again, it goes back to the thing of do things the way that that makes you the most successful. If books help you a lot, read books. You know what I'm saying? If it experiences like it is for me for the most part, and you enjoy that and love that, do that. I think there should be a happy medium. I think I should read more books, to be honest. But all that to say, when it comes to experiences and learning, I guess it's not something I can necessarily put my finger on direct thing. I think the thing that I've learned the most is communication. I think that is one of the most valuable assets anyone can have. And I think the ability to communicate and have social skills, whether it's, okay, we're meeting and we're talking and this experience happens this way and you react a certain way or you feel a certain way, getting to know people and hear their stories, whether it's a plumber or whether it's a garbage guy, whether it's a, NBA all-star, a comedian, whoever it could be, really taking time to hear different individuals' stories and putting myself out there in situations that maybe are uncomfortable for me, I think is one of the things that's helped me garner a lot of experience in communication. And again, when I say I can't put my finger on it, it's more like there's so many things I've picked up, and they're not necessarily, it's not like I can be like, hey, here's, I could probably give some sort of course on communication or social skills, but it would take me a lot of time to really go and think about it. It just makes it, easier for me when I meet new people to be able to communicate. And if someone acts a certain way, I can, know, okay, I shouldn't talk here. Or maybe I should ask them how they're doing, or, and I feel like just, again, that ability and knowledge to communicate with a wide range of people and just about, like I feel like I could be in a room with just about anyone and somehow get closer to them. And that's what I want to do. I want to hear people's stories because I think that people's stories, when you hear about someone, it makes you care about them more. And so I'd say, for sure that just the ability to communicate better.
It's such an undervalued skill, communication. We all talk, like everyone, we learn, for example, at school, it's like English, you'll learn to read, write, and communicate, but you don't really, communicate, but you don't really learn to connect with people. And especially today's, we'll hide behind phones. It's like, I fell into the trap of thinking sharing reels with my buddies was actually catching up. And it's quite funny, right? You have a bit of a laugh with some of that, but actually spending the time to go face to face because you see the mannerisms and even, catching up with you. I go through these phases where, I'll be chatting, even Todd Anderson as well, we were going to do a podcast before I left, but it, didn't happen, but I don't want to pester people. And then when we are catching up, I'm like getting this anxious feeling where I'm like, fuck, why, what if, it blows up or, all the stuff that goes through your head. However, I believe it's important to continue putting yourself in those situations because much like yourself, I can be put in a room with people from all walks of life and make them feel comfortable, learn a lot from them. A great quote that I heard years ago was, everyone's an expert in something that you're not. And because I used to brush people off if they weren't an athlete or whatever, whereas now anyone, I'm like, what can I learn from this person? I'm curious, ask better questions, listen, see how they relay those stories. And a lot of people are lacking that, which is why the loneliness epidemic is happening. People feel disconnected. Even though we've got social media, we can post shit and it looks like life's amazing. Is it really? We don't ever know. We just take it as face value. So I think that's a really important point and something that you do extremely well. I know for you going from football, was there a period in your life when you went from football to what you're doing now where you had like a loss of identity, or how did you navigate that transition period?
Yeah, yes. I would say from the period of finishing football to jumping into the real life, definitely had an identity crisis. It was very tough. I grew up and a lot of what I wanted to do and invested my time into was football and sports. And, when that ends that one day, I've talked about it with a buddy of mine who's a former player on his podcast, but essentially it's like that Shawshank Redemption moment where you're coming from the prison and, not comparing football to prison by any means. I loved it. I mean, I would have loved to be in that. Something you are doing and you're taught to do and you've learned over time, and then you get to this world where that's gone. Well, what do I do now? You've been told by coaches, everything is revolved around this one thing of football, and it's a lot on me because I wish that I would have prioritized things a little bit differently. But also it's hard because when football is such a celebrated sport like it is, and especially in the University of Alabama,
huge, eh?
Everything revolves around it. And so you got fans, you got teachers, you got coaches. Everyone wants to make sure you're doing the right things so that you can be the best football player you can be. And Coach Saban did a good job of trying to help us realize the best person you can be as well. But again, after all those years of trying to get to this goal and then it's gone, I struggled a lot. Like, it was very, very tough. I found myself, Uber Eatsing on the couch, like day after day after day, just sitting there going online on class, like not even getting my master's at Vanderbilt. Some days I wouldn't even have my face on the Zoom call. And it's like, I felt like almost like lifeless. Like I was down, I'm like, damn, like, and then I obviously had lost 2 grandparents and now I'm not playing this sport that I loved. It was a really big challenge. And I definitely had an identity crisis. And I think,
what was going through your mind at that period of time? Because for me, people say they're down and you see them, I guess, ride the highs and lows, but what was going through your mind at that point in time? Like, did you feel worthless? Like, can you give us a bit more of an insight to that?
Yeah, I guess I felt, transparently, I didn't know. I was like, what am I doing anymore? And I was sitting there, like I said, every day I was like, I'm going to go to class, like I'll do this. But like I had a deep love and rooted a lot of my priorities as well as, put a lot of my purpose into football. And so I felt like I was purposeless. I was like, what do I even do? Now I had things that held me, afloat during that time, because obviously I had a purpose and I have a purpose. And so, the things that would keep me going is that the fact that I was already working kind of when I was in college. I was already doing things to prepare for this time, and I still let it, it still was a rocky ship. But I would say, like, I just didn't want to move. I didn't want to go do anything. I didn't know what to do, like it was like literally every day, get up at this time, do this, do that, do this, do that. And now it's a race, and you're like, what do I do now? So it's a hard feeling to describe, but I would just say, all in all, it was extremely tough, and I would be lying if I didn't say it was one of the harder times, throughout life, and just figuring out, what's next. And I still think to this day, I'm not like, it's not like I've completely, like, football still sticks in my head, and I still battle with like a bit of who am I, after football. I'm not saying it'll never go away, but it's definitely going to be a challenge I'm still going to have to face, and I've faced for years and still face today. It's just at a lot lesser extent because I've found things I enjoy and found purpose and passion in different things, and learned things over time. But yeah, it was a struggle.
Rocky
for sure.
road.
It was a rocky road.
What, I guess, advice would you give to someone who is doing it mentally tough, whether it's coming from the sporting background or just in life in general?
Yeah, so like you're asking it for just anyone who's going through a tough spot?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I would say is, someone told me this the other day, and it really hit me, but you may not think you're good enough. You may see people around you doing more. You may not feel like you're getting the results that you want. You may be injured and down. You may be sad. The thing to remember is that God has you in the spot that you are, and that's exactly where he has you. That's where you're supposed to be. And it's not where it's not saying you don't need to do more. It's not saying you don't need to work to try to get out of the area, but like sometimes take a deep breath and realize, like, right where God needs me to be. You know what I'm saying? It's a refreshing thought and feeling. And someone told me that, and I was like, damn, because I was like, this is not going well. This is not going well. But like, look, God's got me right where I need to be for a reason. And there's a reason he has me here. Now, does that mean I don't do anything from this position on? Absolutely not. But just realize that, feel comfort that you're where you need to be. It doesn't matter where so-and-so is. It doesn't matter what results you're getting, what are these things. Like, you're right where you need to be, and you're going to be okay. And you're actually better than you probably think you are. And just to take it one day at a time and really focus on the fact that, like, you got to have faith in certain things and just realize, like, it's going to be okay. But that's like the main thing. That's one of the main things I would say. There's a lot of other things I could say, but that one was fresh on my mind just because someone told me that the other day. I was like struggling going through with some stuff, and I'm like, and the person looked at me and he's like, God's got you right where you need to be. And I'm like, what am I thinking? Like, he's like, you're a lot. And then you start thinking positively about the things that you're able to do. For me, I'm like, wow, I can play all these sports still. My body still works. I'm able to run. I'm able to breathe, wake up and sleep and do these things and transform your mind from a mind of, lacking gratitude to a mind of gratitude. Because once you have that mind of gratitude, then you're able to, have a mind of joy in a sense, So be thankful for a lot of things and think about the things that you are thankful for and blessings that you do have rather than, this is going on or that's going on. Be grateful for where you're at and be grateful for the things that you've been able to accomplish or have in your life.
Do you find it challenging, especially in the position you find yourself in where you obviously have a certain level of influence? You've come from Alabama, you're doing a lot of great stuff, and then obviously you're around a lot of people doing a lot of great stuff with that whole comparison experience. Like, I feel for myself, like I'd look at someone like yourself or a lot of other people and I'd be like, how do I get to where they're at? And I've done this my whole life, even the position I'm in now where I can live abroad, etc. This was what I once wanted 4 years ago, and now it's not enough. And then from what you just said, I'm like, oh man, if I just, I guess, look at the big picture, I'm fucking killing it. Like,
exactly.
Life's amazing. But then, 2 hours time, I'll be looking back at, thinking about this. I'm like, righto, what can I do to continue growing and getting to where I think I should be? So is it a big challenge for you managing that? Especially you travel a bucket load as well. Yeah. I don't know how you do it. So managing all of that from the comparison side of things.
Absolutely. I think that like basic human nature, we compare, and with today's society and today's age, social media is a big reason we do that. When you have the best, everyone's putting out for the most part, the best of the best, and it's broadcasted everywhere, man. Directly to your phone. You get to see, oh, so-and-so just won a gold medal. So-and-so's this, so-and-so just got this, whatever it is. There's a lot of things and people are sharing their proudest moments for the most part. And so I think it's very hard at times for people to see, you see these things, or for me, like, look, I train with a guy who played in the NFL, is, still doing stuff, is still pursuing ball. And it's like, I find myself like comparing myself to him, like, okay, he's lifting like this much, I need to be lifting this much. And sometimes I'm like, Mac, like, this guy has been playing in the year, played in the league for 5 years. And, you haven't been out of the league. You're not even in the league. You played college football and you're comparing yourself to this guy. Like, look, you're 27 years old. I have to tell myself I'm 27 years old. I'm running fast. My body's still working well. Like, so again, yes, the comparison thing becomes a challenge. I think what's definitely helped me is knowing that you're never going to be content or joyful when you decide to compare these different things. Okay, how do I become this person, or how do I be this person, or how do I get to this level? Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, like, you have to find personal happiness and joy. And one of the things I challenge people to do is truly look at your life and say, what do I really want? And would this really make me happy? Because the Lachlan who was here, now you're here. And you probably thought when you were prior to this spot that you would be happier when you're at this spot. And now it's like, oh, now I got to get here. And it's like, think about and really challenge yourself instead of comparing. And it's very hard to do. I'm not saying I don't do it, but instead of comparing yourself to others, try to really think like, what's really going to bring me true joy? And then you start to find yourself, like I've started to find myself, I don't really consume a bunch of like, other media and try to compare myself anymore, because I'm like not content, but I'm like, damn, like, doesn't matter how much money I make. It doesn't matter this or this or that. Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, what matters is, am I going to be happy doing what I'm doing? And is it going to bring joy to other people and myself? And, all these other variables, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? If you can be happy, that's the true thing. If you can be joyful, and finding that true joy is what I encourage people to do. Again, it's very hard in today's world where it's so much work and so much, everything's being broadcast to everybody.
Yeah.
But it's helped me in the comparison way of just saying, look, like, what really brings me joy, and what are the things that make me happy, and I'm going to pursue those things and invest my time into those things.
That was another thing I took away from listening to a podcast with you when you were at Alabama. You were thinking about the community work that I mentioned, and then networking, and you obviously were trying to play at the elite level of football, but you're also thinking at some point, whether I play NFL or I don't, football comes to an end. I played elite footy. I played over in France and all of that sort of stuff, and I never thought about that. And I had probably a 3-year stint where after I retired, where I was like, I fucking have nothing going on, whereas you've just sort of moved into another career. And I think it's a really good thing to touch on for people now, like the actions or the things that we do today do influence our tomorrow. And when you can sort of stop and think about where do I want to be in, the next couple of years, whether it's from a relationship standpoint or your health, how do I want to look, feel, be able to move? What do I need to put in place today in order to do that? You would have been, early 20s when you were already thinking about that. Where do you feel that came from? Because I didn't start thinking about it till I probably was 27. And I was like, far out.
It's a good question. I'm just thinking about it right now, just to really because I guess it came from just a drive that I think it's, a God thing. And I don't want to say that in the sense of other people, it's not like God's leaving them out to dry, he left you out to dry or anything. I think it was I give credit to God in that area because I can't explain it or describe what it was. I don't know. And I was in college and I just remember being motivated, and it was okay, I think it was more of less preparing that, obviously I knew football would come to an end someday. And I say that sometimes, but I think it was less of that and saying, how can I even grow more? How can I impact more people? And while I was already at Alabama, okay, the way to do that is let me utilize the place I'm in to reach out to as many people as possible, show people behind the curtain, encourage people, go out and do community service, do these things because while I'm in that certain position, make the most of it. And then that in turn continued to build I knew at the same time I was building to impact people, I was also building for life after ball. But yeah, I would say it was a God thing because I can't really tell you, it just came to me. It was all right, I want to put in more work. I wanted to grind. I think just knowing my purpose was, a lot bigger than the game. At the end of the day, having that my purpose is bigger than that.
I got two questions sort of rolled into one, but did you ever feel when you were at Alabama and you were, I guess, showing inside the locker room, so to speak, and I guess leveraging the position you're in, did you ever feel, I'm thinking out loud here, guilty, or I don't even have the exact word, but I know my wife's a big celebrity in Australia and they're banned, etc. And we are afforded a lot of opportunity because of that. And I never want to leverage it because I'm I want to do it myself. But then I also know that it can help me impact more people and do everything like that. So I'm just trying to understand, did you ever experience that? If so, how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I never felt any guilt of leveraging Alabama. The reason why is because, look, it was my dream to play there. I worked my ass off.
Yep.
Was getting up early in the morning, putting my time in, doing the things I needed to do, and I was giving them so much. And Alabama wanted to give. They want us to succeed, especially Coach Saban wanted us to succeed as men and as people. And so I never felt I'm leveraging this because no, I was putting in the work day in and day out at this university, and I wasn't getting to, get out there on Saturdays for the most part. I was on the field, but I wasn't out there getting the reps, getting the playing time that I wanted. And so it's okay, what can I get out of this? And some of the coaches would encourage us, different coaches would say, make sure you're getting the most out of where you are because there's a lot of value to playing there, and they want us to take that value and use it. So I never really felt anything guilty about it just because of I was putting in so much goddamn work that I'm all right, this is, this is a way. I mean, there's a lot of things during the time that I was I took for granted, but at the same time I was I need to leverage this, and I don't feel bad doing it because that's what we're there. That's part of the reason you go to a school like the University of Alabama is for that opportunity,
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's one of the biggest things I struggle with I guess from that whole leveraging standpoint, but it's definitely something that I want to do more. We've got incredible networks and communities that can help continue growing. Just to wrap up, because I want to be mindful of your time, what's one thing that you're working on at the moment that you're most excited about?
I would say this sounds cheesy, but I could say some sort of business venture. I could say some sort of content thing that would be really fun. But in all, I would say maybe it's not exciting, but the thing I'm working on the most right now is just really taking a step back and realizing, I've done all this stuff in the workspace and realizing, look, it's time to elevate me and my personal happiness, my mental health,
Yep.
And the things that I want, the way I want to feel and the things I want. So I'd say my big project right now happens to be myself. And I'm challenging myself because it's hard as a man in your 20s in Nashville, Tennessee, and anywhere to do certain things to get to a certain spot. For me, that certain spot is like, I want to have a wife. I want to have a family. I want to be a great loving husband, great father. Well, how do I get there? Okay. And am I doing the right things to be able to get to that spot? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but what can I be doing better to get me to that spot? And so that's, I would say, is the biggest thing I'm doing right now, is taking some time to have fun projects coming up and stuff that people will see. But for now, I'd say that's the biggest project, is just me and just taking a step back. And even people see I'm busy all the time. I'm doing stuff, but I'm really taking a lot of time right now as well to focus on myself, work on myself, and try to be a better man, better person.
It's awesome, man.
So I don't know if that's exciting.
Project Me. Oh, it is.
Project Mac, but but it's enjoyable to me, and it's been a challenge because, again, I love to be doing stuff all the time. And I think that I get, so busy, but I revert back to what I was saying earlier. I think one of the biggest important things that I've realized is I've seen people who are very successful, and success doesn't always bring happiness. And you sit there and you wonder, okay, if I'm going to try to get there, that's not what I want to be happy. And so it's if I can create happiness where I am in the present and with what I've got going on, no matter how much money I make, no matter how much these other things, obviously there are factors that contribute to it. But if I can create true joy, just myself, then you have unlimited wealth. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
You are the wealthiest man on the planet if you can get that. Screw having a yacht, private jet. Those things would be great.
That would be awesome, man.
That would be great. Don't get me wrong, having some mansions and stuff like that. Those things would be awesome, and they are fun. I've gotten to go to those cool places, done those cool things. But at the end of the day, again, you're going to find true wealth when you find, true happiness and joy in what you're doing and who you are. And it's a lot easier said than done. But so that's why I'm really working on that, because I've realized, I've done some really cool things, and they bring me immediate happiness. It's in the moment, it's fun, it's great. But long term, we talk about longevity of being able to have residual joy, residual happiness, you're going to create that by sitting down and saying, what do I got? What makes me happy? And what kind of man do I need to be to achieve that? And so I don't think anyone has that figured out. Don't think I'll ever necessarily. I don't think anyone will truly have that figured out. I think that's part of life, but at least trying to dive into that and figure out ways, because again, I see it time after time. I see people just working, and they're not happy, and they can make more and more money. They're not happy. And I'm like, I don't want to do that bullshit,
Yeah, do it differently.
Yeah.
Dude, 100%. I think Project Mac, man, cool cool project to work on. I think it's important though, to your point, you can always make more money, but it's relationships. At the end of the day, there's a great book, 5 Truths of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. She's an Australian palliative care nurse. It's gone viral, but she obviously, seeing people on death's door, was asking them, what would you do differently? And there was 5 things, and it's I would have taken more risks. I would have not worked so much. I would have kept in contact with my friends. And it's all stuff that anyone can do, regardless of where you're at in life. But whether it's because of social media, we all think we need to be hustlers and living on the yachts and all of that. And granted, that shit's cool, and I want that stuff. I love that. Don't get me wrong, but I want to have the relationships where you can call them when you hit rock bottom. It's most of myself and Amy, our friends, are all having kids, and they've got their houses set up at home, and we often find ourselves in our little 1-bedroom apartment here in Nashville, sitting around a table. We're we got a house back home. We could be doing the same, and sometimes you're would love to be doing that. But we're also doing cool stuff here with the hope that it sets us up for the future to do other things. And the most important thing is our relationship keeps getting stronger. We've got our family, we've literally got the 3 apartments next door here as well. We're this little, Sobro cult here. No, but we get to have these cool experiences with people that we care about. And much like I started this conversation with, is I want to continue having conversations and meeting people like yourself who are doing cool stuff, because I get insights and perspectives, and I'm sure our audience will as well. And I've taken away so much today, especially from someone like yourself who has or is still doing so much cool stuff. But it's great to know that a real focal point for you is on yourself and thinking about the man that you need to become, because I think that's often overlooked in today's world.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really appreciate it. I love conversations like this because as much as you're figuring out we gotta do this again because I want to learn more about your story.
Yeah.
It sounds captivating, and I would love to even come on. I know you've probably told your audience knows you pretty well, but I would love to come and ask you stuff on your own podcast.
Get grilled on the show.
Yeah, but yeah. Again, I think that like the things that are important, you got to keep the main. Coach like Saban would say, you got to keep the main thing, and like. Just know the things that are really important in your life and keep those. Like if you when you're making decisions, have those people in mind, have those things in mind, and they'll help you hopefully make the right decisions. But yeah, to me, it's a crazy world because I think when people look at like value and stuff, there's a totem pole and like business or not even in business, but really life. Like people look at like this totem pole. And a lot of people have money here.
100%.
And whenever people come up to me and talk to me in business and they're like, we're going to make so much money. I'm like, door closed. You know what I mean? Because it's not about that. I think I love that. Like one of the things that people sometimes like, it doesn't make me a lot of money. My number one, I guess like priority thing, but I love relationships and I love building relationships. I love nurturing them. I love having good friends. A lot of people are like, dude, you're just everyone's best friend. Like, I may die one day and have no money to my name, but if I'm everyone's best friend, we won.
Dude, 100%.
We've done a good job. So
I think that breaks down, and we'll wrap up, but it breaks down as well when people say they want money, they haven't thought enough. And this goes back to being more creative. I used to be that dude. It was like money. I used to track everything. I still track a lot of stuff, but when I'm like, well, I want more money, what do I actually want? I want the opportunity to go play golf every day this week without having to stress about my finances or flying back to Australia, all of that sort of stuff. That's what I want, right? So when I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you, it's like, dude, we could go play golf right now if you wanted to have that fucking cool experience. Awesome. Like that's for me when I understand the value that money brings to my life. It's the fact that if Amy and I to have a kid, I could be a stay-at-home dad and we can, go live in Spain or France. Like that's cool. That's what I'm about. It's not necessarily making another $1 million. But to most people who haven't necessarily thought about it enough, that is the thing and that's what we reward. But it's like, what about the dudes who are literally doing what you're doing? I watched what you're doing and I'm like, oh, that's sick. Playing golf, hitting the gym, like living a really cool life. And I value those things as well, which is why I reached out to you. So I don't think we give enough thought into why we actually want money and what the money gives us, because that's the true value of it.
Exactly.
But Mac, where can people follow along and find out more about you?
Quick side note. I know this will air a little bit later, but one exciting thing that I am doing is I'm playing in it's called the Celebrity Poker Tour, May 4th, the weekend. So not this weekend. Yeah, well, we'll get to look at this after and think how I did. So I'm playing in that in Las Vegas, Celebrity Poker Tour, which will be a lot of fun. So we'll get to see after.
How do you go with poker?
I love poker. I told someone the other day, I think that it gets people together, and I love anything that brings people together, that people can, we can get a table like in college. I had football guys, fraternity guys, all playing poker. So it brings people together is one thing. So it has the community aspect to it. But also, if you look deeper into the game, there's a lot of similarities to life. I told someone this the other day. I'm like, okay, I get dealt, a certain group of cards, just like you get dealt a certain situation in life. You have to look at that situation, evaluate it. Is it worth continuing to bank and throw coin or invest time, invest money, whatever it is? Do you want to keep investing in these cards in the hand that you're dealt? Or do you want to let this one go? So it could be, like business opportunities. Like a lot of times I'll get something and I'll be like, dang, this is a lot of money. This is a lot of like benefits. This is a great opportunity, but is it the one? And a lot of times you got to let a lot of those cards go. You got to fold them for the chance that you're going to get a great opportunity. And there may be times where you ride a certain hand that's dealt too long and they get to the point where you've lost a lot on it. Shit, I find myself in poker all the time. Call. The chips stack up in the middle of the table. And I'm like, damn it, it's too late now. I go all in and lose every goddamn thing to my name, but I buy back in and I keep going. And just like life, you fail, you have a problem, you get back in there and you do it. But all that to say,
that's such a good metaphor,
long
dude.
thing on poker. Poker, the metaphors are crazy when you talk about poker, but I really enjoy it for the community and the relationships it's brought into my life and the people that I've played it with. And, and again, sorry to go on the poker wave, but it's because you see when I lose a game, sometimes I get really upset. You are dealing with money.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, what's important to me, I'll go in there and I'll get rinsed by my friends. Like, like just absolutely taken to the grave per se. And all my cash is gone. And I leave the table sometimes. My friends are like, "You're free money." I'm like, no. Like, I'm like, look, if I paid, $100 to sit down here for 2 hours to hang out with my friends, by God, I'll come give $100 to this pot every single day because it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I love the game of poker. So I'm excited for that tournament. We'll see if I win.
And I'm keen to watch. That's going to be awesome.
It's going to be live streamed. I don't know how much airtime I'll get, but it's live streamed. 65, I think, players all over the country. Got like famous boxers. There's people from Netflix shows, football players.
That's sick.
Artists. It's a ton of cool people. And I'm really looking forward to it. So,
dude, good luck.
Thank you. But yeah, people can follow me, I guess, on TikTok. It's just at MAC and then HEREFORD. And then on Instagram, MAC_HEREFORD, same as it is on Twitter, on Snapchat, and then
Snapchat. I keep forgetting about Snapchat.
Snapchat sneaks up.
Maybe I'm old, man.
Snapchat's got some more features now, and it's changed a little bit. It's more than just a communication app these days.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, find me wherever, and hopefully we can talk again sometime. I've really enjoyed the show and really enjoyed the questions you've asked and the conversations we've had. So,
mate, I appreciate you giving me some of your time. I know you're a busy dude, but it was awesome fun. And for everyone listening, all of the social links are in the show notes, so you can just click it and check it out. I'd highly recommend checking it out. And depending on when this airs, I might try and get it out before the poker. But if not, I'll put a link to the replay as well. But thanks for coming on, mate.
100%. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.